Hey guys, Hakuna Matata. It's Monday, December 30th, and I'm back here at the bus finally. What's it? It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I could have gotten out here earlier, but I just didn't. Alright. So, on my last video, I talked about how the gap in the door was a little bit tight down there in the bottom. So, I've already come over here and I've removed the door jamb piece from here and the door stop, which is right there. Just for reference, there's the door stop on the hinge side and the door jamb on this side, and the piece behind there, I'm calling that the sub jamb, I guess, which is still here. This is permanently affixed to the bus. It's been attached with Gorilla construction adhesive and screws. Alright, that's really on there. So that stays. So here we are in the garage. Let me turn on the light. Okay, so here's my mark. It's about 155 thousandths of a gap. I was using drill bits to gauge the space between this and the door. And here we're about 93, so that's about 60 thousandths, which is about a 1/16 of an inch. So we've got options. I mean, this thing's looking a little bit warped, but that doesn't really matter. It straightens itself out when we put the screws in. The options that we have is we can plane off the outside piece, or we can plane off the back. And I think what I'm going to do is plane off the back, because then I won't have to mess with my countersunk holes. They're already countersunk, you know, a nice amount. So what I'm going to do is let's see what we got going on here. I'm going to think about this. Maybe I will do the front just because of the way that it's warped. I'm going to think that through. But for starters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a line here to represent a 1/16 of an inch. So as I plane this off, I'll know where to stop down here, and I'll just go by feel and guesstimation of how much wood I'm removing from here. Then I can reinstall this piece and double check its fit and see how I'm going. Alright, so I decided to go ahead with skimming the wood off the back, and I've made myself some lines. They're not very clear. I would like them to be a little bit better, but the way I did it is I put about a 1/16 inch worth of wood. This piece happens to have a taper to it. And I put that underneath like that. Hold on. Okay. And of course I didn't do it like this. I did it where I had table saw all along the way, running this way on this clear space of table saw. I'm just showing you this because I only got one hand here, but so if you will. Alright, so then I held my pencil to where the angle here gave me a line right there at the very edge, and while holding this down, I ran the pencil, holding the pencil at the same angle, I ran that all the way to the end, and that's what gave me the line. And I've put the line on both sides, and it's a little heavy. It's a little more than 1/16, so my target is going to be to leave the line. Okay, and it's going all the way down to nothing in this area, which is where I had it marked. Now I don't want this to be an abrupt change, so this is all going to be kind of a feathered. I'm going to come back with the belt sander after I plane it, and we're going to give this our best shot. I'm also going to take my pencil and so this is a little cupped right here. I know it's maybe. See the light coming through right there like that. So I don't know if that's warpage or from my previous planing jobs, but I got to think about how to handle that. I guess I'll just make it straight because that's pretty much all I can do. Okay, I'll come back to you after I've done some planing. Alright, well, I didn't get started yet. Just thought I'd give you guys a glimpse at the plane I'm using. This is actually a really awkward plane to use because it doesn't fit my hand very well. It's like it's too small for my hand. I remember my father saying the same thing. He never really liked this one that much either. His favorite was a smaller block plane that had a much smaller handle on it, about the same size. But I wanted to show you just how sharp that blade is. There was a little sliver of wood in there that I wanted to get out, and I don't know if you can see that, but I cut myself, and I just barely wiped on that blade, so it's pretty much sharp as a razor. And that's after I have been doing a whole bunch of planing on previous days. So it's holding an edge. Tell you what, this is some fine old tools, man. Alright, so we're gonna adjust our blade out till we get a very light cut, so it's easy to plane and control the work that I'm doing. And I'm gonna put a clamp on this thing to hold it right over here someplace where I can actually get a clamp to clamp here because it's solid on the back. In these other areas it's hollow. Okay, so where that seam is, it's solid, and on the edges it's solid around here. So this is normally the place that I put clamps, is right along here, and that's the easy one to get to. On this side, this round bar from my fence gets in the way a little bit, but I can still get a clamp on that. Alright, so now I'm going to get started on the planing. Alright, so I'm just getting started. I'm pretty much dialing in the cut on the adjustment back here. And you can see what I'm taking off is very, very thin. So I'm probably where I want to be. I mean, a lot of it is just like sawdust coming out of there. It's just barely shaving. And what that does is it makes it really easy. And normally you wouldn't lay your block plane on the blade like that. Alright, so this is the stuff that's coming out. Alright, I might jack it in there a little bit harder. But the method I'm using is as I'm pulling the block plane. I mean, they're designed to be pushed, right? But I'm pulling it because it's easier for me to pull than it is to push. And it's working well, so I'm going to keep on with it. The grain is cooperating with me cutting in this direction. So as long as it works, I'm going to keep going that way. I may have to start planing in the other direction in order to get this edge to come down better, but for now I'm going to continue planing towards you. So I'm just about where I want to be. Can you see the line there? I'm getting there anyway. And it stopped planing, so I started planing in that direction, and you can see how it's just like tearing the grains. It's because it's the direction how the grain is going. The grain is like like in this direction here, so planing against it, it's tearing up and it's actually gouging and catching. But that's fine. It really took the wood off quickly. So now that I think I'll go in that direction a little bit more, right here, in the very end of it. Or you know what? Let me try coming this way. See how it goes. All right. So I think where we are where we want to be. I did the final planing in this direction, and it smoothed it right out. It's almost perfect. got my belt sander out. I'm going to hit it with the belt sander here in a minute. So here's kind of a tip on using block planes or planes, hand planes. They're flat, okay? So they're designed so you can take the unevenness out of what you're working with by running the plane in the direction of the cut. So the longer the plane, the truer the surface is going to be when you make your cut. If, on the other hand, you're trying to make a hollow, right, or for whatever reason you want to plane an area that it's got a high side on either end, you could turn the plane at an angle and plane like this, and what it does is effectively it shortens the length of the plane's support area. So that's how that works. Put a little gouge there. Let me hit this thing with the belt sander, and of course, because I decided to work on the bus, it's starting to rain. Gosh, looks like my door's getting wet. Let me go close it. Okay, we're back on the bus, and it's perfectly what I was shooting for. The gap here is staying consistent by eye anyway. All right, now I did notice just now that maybe the last, what would that be, the last 8 inches at the top is a little skinny. The gap is a little more narrow up there. I could massage that, but what's going to happen is if I plane off this guy, it's going to give me a gap in the seam between the vertical piece and the horizontal piece. There's really nothing I can do about that, no matter what I do. Okay? But I would be okay with a tiny bit of gap there. I'm just going to fill it with some kind of caulk anyway, right? So maybe what we'll do is take about a 32nd of an inch off the last 6 or 8 inches down there, and we'll repeat exactly what I did here to fix that. And it's really coming down pretty good right now. The ducks are happy. My neighbor's pond is flooded. We've been getting a lot of rain here the last week. Gosh, I hate this. Alright, so see if I can show you here. Alright, you can see there's a tiny bit extra gap between the two pieces of wood up there. It's a little bit of a compromise. I could have gone over a little bit more on the end, but you know, it's way good. All right, so I could live with what I've got. The gap looks nice. The gap on this side is good. All right, so we're done. We're done with the fit of the door. Now I'm gonna fight the rain here. Should put a leg on this to hold this awning out, so I could work a little bit better if I had some kind of pole. Put my ladder there or something. So what I want to do now, I want to come here with my round off on the router and round off this corner on both sides and the top. Well, I guess the top doesn't really need it, does it? It's going to have my drip guard there. Alright, so we'll do just the sides. And I got to take the drip guard off so I can get the router up in there. Hopefully the router bit will clear this, or I'm going to take that hinge off. And then we're going to come back and finish sand. And other than being wet out here and the rain and all, this will be ready for a coat of primer, which I will not do today, that's for sure. I think tomorrow it's going to be a dry day, so maybe tomorrow will be the day I can finally get some paint on this thing. And tomorrow's the 31st. Maybe the glass place will be open. I'll give them a call. If they are, I could take the door over there and have them cut me the piece of glass to go in here. That would be great. And then go buy the paint. that we're going to paint this with, which will be that color, because my wife said so. Well, we're done for the day. I got all this sanded, just sanded by hand, and then I blew it off with compressed air to get the dust out of it. And it looked like I had some mold. You know, there was black spots in the greens. So I took a spray bottle mixed with water, mixed with some bleach, and a tiny bit of simple green, and I just sprayed this thing lightly and wiped it down, and wiped off this side, the edges here, really good, because I'm going to put tape on this before I paint, and I want the tape to stick well. So I got this all cleaned up all the way around, and I reassembled the doorstop all the way around. So what we're going to do is tomorrow, yeah, you can see right down there where she's a little wet still. It's almost dry. Tomorrow we're gonna put a real thin coat of primer on here, the same primer I used on the bus. I did a test a couple weeks ago or so, and the primer does work well on this wood. So I imagine my first coat is going to cause a bunch of the hairs to stick up, and I'll be sanding that. I prepped my door. I put all the screws in it around the perimeter of the opening to protect it in case it gets a hit on here. I didn't want to break the bond of the epoxy. And I took the hinges off and the doorknobs off so it's flat. And so tomorrow, I think what I'm going to do is go for a ride over to Sherwin-Williams and get a quart of paint that matches that color right there, and pass by the glass place and see if they'll cut me a piece of glass. And somewhere in that mix, I'm going to go to the urgent care and see if I can't get me some antibiotics for my urinary infection. Yeah, I know. Thanks for sharing. So I reattached my tarp over there, the grapevine. It seems to hold it much nicer, gives me a better work area. I sure would like to have a couple legs in there though to take the pressure off the corners of the tarp there. But that's it, man. Hakuna Matata. It's December 31st, Tuesday. I got my coat of primer on here, and it came out darn good, man. I'm very happy with it. This is the automotive paint primer, which does not specify it works for wood, but it works great for wood. It's still a little soft yet, it's not hard. So I'm going to give this a little bit more time, and there's a couple areas that the grain has stood up, like right there. I might hit that with some fine paper. And so I did some painting over here as well. I painted these hinge pockets, or mortises, I guess. This is primer, okay? I primed the hole. On here I used the paint straight thickness to give me a nice heavy coat to seal it up. And in the other areas I used reducer. I started using acetone as my reducer, but it was drying too fast. It was pulling the bristles out of the brush. So then I changed to use the regular reducer that's for that paint, and I got it nice and runny, and it really soaked into the grain, just how I would have liked it to go. I mean, you can see that it looks thin, but my main purpose was to get penetration into the grain to seal it. Top coat will cover it up. So yeah, I'm gonna caulk that up here pretty soon, and then this will be ready for paint. It's getting kind of late in the day. What time is it? It's 4:15. Yeah, there's not enough time to put paint on. The dew's going to sit in here pretty soon. Gosh, that feels good. And also, I bought my quart of that color paint, And we're prepping this door for a coat of primer, which I can do right now if I get on the stick. And I got a bunch of masking to do because I don't want to paint the edges because I'm concerned that this is going to scratch up real easy and look like crap. So I'm going to paint just the inside and I'm going to polish this up shiny.